We are officially less than a month out from election night, and the race remains a pure coin flip. Polymarket gives Trump a 52% chance of winning, meaning if the election were held 100 times, he would win 52 times, and Kamala Harris 47 times, with an approximate 1% chance of something totally crazy happening. These odds are directly tied to each candidate's chances in the key battleground states, where Polymarket also runs individual markets for each state. In this video, I'll walk you through the odds for each of these states and provide some of my own insight into why they're rated the way they are. Just for your reference, prediction markets like these have often proven to be more accurate than polls. While polls measure public opinion at a specific moment in time, these odds reflect the consensus of people who have a real stake in the outcome. They are literally putting their money where their mouth is, and that can lead to a more grounded prediction of how the election will unfold. Let's start with the safe states, where Trump or Harris have better than a 95% chance of winning. For Vice President Kamala Harris, the Pacific Blue Wall is almost guaranteed to stay intact for the 9th consecutive cycle, with Washington, Oregon, California, and Hawaii all firmly in the Democratic column. We also have Colorado, the fastest left-trending state in the nation, and Illinois. Up in the Northeast, Harris is solid in New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, and Maryland. Joe Biden carried each of those states by at least 15 percentage points in the 2020 cycle. Harris also has a 98% chance of carrying Maine's 1st congressional district, along with the District of Columbia, which doesn't even have a market because Democrats have never won it by less than 50 points. On the other side, Donald Trump has his own set of safe states. He's virtually certain to win in North and South Dakota, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, and Utah. Nebraska's statewide election, as well as its 1st and 3rd districts, are safely Republican, as are Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and South Carolina. Finally, we have Kentucky, Indiana, and West Virginia, all reliably in Trump's column. He carried each of his own safe states by at least 15 points in 2020 as well. Looking at the electoral map now, with all the safe states filled in, Kamala Harris jumps out to an early lead in the race to 270 electoral votes, with 191 to Donald Trump's 122. That leaves 225 votes still up for grabs in the 17 more competitive states, which are still shaded in gray. Now let's move on to the likely states, where each candidate has an 80 to 95% chance of winning. These states strongly favor one candidate, but still leave room for an upset, with the underdog having at least a 5% chance. Starting with Harris, her running mate, Tim Walz's home state of Minnesota, is likely to stay blue for what would be a record-extending 13th consecutive election cycle. Joe Biden carried Minnesota by 7 points in 2020, and the markets currently give Harris a 92% chance of holding the state in November. However, that might be a bit optimistic given the state of current polling. Harris leads by less than 5 points in an average of the last 4 polls, with margins ranging from +3 to +6. Personally, I'd rate her chances closer to 80%, moving this closer to the lean category rather than a likely. Harris is also very likely to hold New Mexico with its 5 electoral votes. Biden won New Mexico by 11 percentage points in 2020, and Harris is seen as the heavy favorite with a 92% chance of winning according to the latest odds. This feels more accurate given that Harris leads by more than 8 points in the poll average, including 2 double-digit leads in the last 4 polls. Back on our map, Harris is also favored to hold Nebraska's 2nd congressional district, where Democrats currently have a 90% chance of securing that single electoral vote again, despite Nebraska being a deep red state overall. Joe Biden flipped this Omaha-based district by 6.5 points in 2020, and it's rapidly trending left, with a large proportion of college graduates. Harris is also likely to hold Virginia with its 13 electoral votes. Virginia went for Biden by double digits in 2020, though this cycle has shown a more competitive race than expected. Harris leads by about 4.8% based on the last 6 polls, similar to her margin in Minnesota.